everybody, and welcome to a special holiday edition of Boobies and Newbies, the podcast that asks novice romance readers to think outside the dick in a box and brave the unbridled world of erotica. I'm your host, Kelly Reynolds, and today's romance review marks the final installment in this year's 12 Days of Boobsmas. That's right, another Boobsmas season has come and gone, and it's a bittersweet feeling for sure, but I'm so ready for a holiday break. Boobies and Newbies will return in mid-January after a brief hiatus, and y'all, I promise that 2024 is going to be a much more active year for the podcast. I know I was really slacking this year, but I have already got some episodes in the can. I've already got some recording dates on the calendar. Shout out to my 2024 planner. And I've also got a few new ideas for segments, themed episodes, and more. So I will be back in 2024. Now, as per usual, in the meantime, you can always catch up on past episodes of Boobies and Newbies, including 12 Days of Boobsmas Past on your favorite podcast app or on our website, boobiesandnewbies.com. At this time, Christmas is right around the corner, so the Boobsmas giveaway opportunities have already wrapped. In fact, I've already sent out my Boobsmas mail to all of our giveaway winners, so thank you so much for participating this year. The best way to keep up with all of our upcoming episodes, news, and future giveaways is to follow us across the social channels at Boobies Podcast on all the usual places, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and maybe Twitter. I don't know. It changes every day. And of course, at Real Kelly Ray on TikTok. This is my final reminder for the season that I have a couple of holiday romance novellas of my own that are out. They're both in Kindle Unlimited, Meet Me in Los Feliz and Venice Actually. And if you can squeeze in a little bit more of holiday reading into your schedule, I would greatly appreciate you picking up a copy of them. Lastly, if you feel like making this podcaster's holidays a bit more merry and bright, and only, of course, if you have the means to do so, you might consider leaving Boobies and Newbies a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can also join our Patreon family for as little as $1 a month and have instant access to bonus podcast clips, our monthly Boobies Unlimited book club chat, and so much more. As always, you will find links for all of the above in today's show notes as well as on our website. And now, on to the 12th day of Boobsmas. For the 12th and final day of Boobsmas, I'm chatting with one of my favorite Bookstagrammer podcast pals about one sad but lovely Achillean Christmas romance. Trigger warnings ahead for discussions about death and grief. Please welcome back the co-host of the Categorically Romance podcast, Bree. Great to have you back, Bree.
Thank you so much for having me. It is always such an honor. So yeah, thank you for including category. And I'm excited to get into this book. I'm excited to chat with you. So happy holidays, everybody.
Me too.
Happy
Happy
Boobsmas.
holidays. Merry Boobsmas. Happy Boobsmas sounds like the British version. Like,
Yeah.
Happy Boobsmas. That was a terrible. Apologies to all of the UK
Yeah,
listeners.
guys, forgive
What a
us. We're not.
terrible
We're girls from the States.
Not putting that theater degree to use today. Like, it's too early. Oh, no. But I think the last time that I had you here was actually for last 12 days of Boobsmas. So it's been a minute, but you know that you and Aaron are my go-tos whenever it comes to anything category romance.
Thank you. Yes.
Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your podcast? And I know people listening who have been longtime listeners will know that we've had this conversation before, but I am always fascinated by how many romance readers are out there that don't really know category romance. And I think that's a shame, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh, I love it so much. So I had no idea what it was. I'm new to romance. I did not read it in like middle school like most of my friends do. I don't have that story. So I was like almost 30 when I started reading romance. And then I became friends with my original co-host of the podcast, Sarah. And I just immediately fell in love with her online because she was talking about romance, but she was not talking the romance that all the other girls were. I was like, what is this that she's talking about? And it was Harlequin. And so we became friends, and that, led to us doing the podcast. And yeah, it is kind of a shame, I think. I do think that more readers may become interested because Harlequin does have a new line coming out called
Ooh.
Afterglow starting in January. And they have some amazing authors that have, already have some fun single titles out there that are going to be writing for it. We have some like indie authors that are going to be writing for it now. And it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. Some already like established Harlequin authors will be writing for it. So my hope is that with this new line that you'll see on the shelves, and it'll have the cute illustrated covers that like everything else does, I'm hoping readers will pick it up and be like, let me see what else this new Harlequin people have.
That's true, because I just saw, I'm blanking on the book, but I saved an Instagram post with a cover reveal for a book that's coming out in 2024, and it is the cutest dang thing. It was an illustrated cover. I believe I believe one, if not both of the characters were people of color, which I was like, oh my God, amazing. And then I saw the label on the side that was like, from Harlequin. And I was like,
Yes.
what? That is not,
Yes.
and that's not to say that Harlequin hasn't been out here, publishing BIPOC stories for a while now, but I had not seen the illustrated covers. So it seems like almost like a Harlequin rebranding of sorts, at least with this one imprint.
Yeah, I'm excited. So if you haven't picked up, if you don't know what category romance is, essentially the easiest way that I can explain it is like, what do you like to read? If you enjoy small town sweet romance, they have that. If you want romantic suspense where the romance is a little bit more heavier than the suspense, well, they have the romantic suspense line. If you want more suspense than romance, they have the intrigue line. If you want the fairy tale fantasy, they have presents. If you are like me and finding out that you love romances set in the medical world, they have a whole medical line. I think if you love small town romances, you will love the medical line because that's essentially what it is. They are essentially small town when you think about it. It's set
Right.
in the world of the hospital. But yeah, my favorite line is actually the romance line. Here in the States, you will not find them in the store. You have to go on Harlequin's website. But it's kind of like, I'd say the cousin to presents. It's still fairy tale-ish. It's still rich people, but it's more down to earth in a way. So they have something for everybody, but I am excited for the new line, and I do hope that it just encourages people to see what else that they have. If you are a person of faith and you like that in your romances, they have love inspired. They have love
Right.
inspired suspense. They have love inspired historicals. Like, they have been out here for a long time.
Yes.
So I hope people will pick them up. And there's also category from Thule. There's category from Entangled. They're digital first, but if you go on Amazon and you order the paperback, Amazon will send it to you. So
Yeah. Yeah,
go check it out.
It's not like they're hard to get. Well, and I have to say, I don't know. I think it's still common. Maybe things have changed, but I know that when I was still very early into, I should say, my romance reading journey, I was a poor college student, and I would go, and this was pre me having a Kindle, and I would go to Target and they would have category romances for like $2. And I
Oh,
would
wow.
get like
Yeah.
so excited to find romances that one were cheaper than the usual traditionally published books. Two, they were also much shorter. Like, a lot of them are closer to like the
Yes.
200 page range, which I think,
Yes.
especially in the last few years, probably as a byproduct of the pandemic, a lot more people have been demanding novellas and shorter novels. And so I do
Yes.
think category is the perfect place to search for those. And like Bree said, there's a little bit for everybody.
There is, yeah. That is, it kind of spoils you a little bit once you really get into it. When I read like a single title book, if I'm 5 or 6 chapters in and the characters haven't met yet, I'm like, what is going on here? Because in
What?
category, usually within the first chapter, they've met, you know the tropes, you know the backstory, you know everybody's emotional wounds, you know
Mhm.
everything. And then you get to the storytelling. And so it's like sometimes when you're reading those single titles now, you're like, this is dragging. Why haven't they met yet? You know, like why haven't they
That's
kissed already?
that's so
So,
true. That is so true. And
but yeah,
honestly, there I can think of a handful of books that I've read in the past year where they went like 20% of the book without them like having much of an interaction, if
yeah.
any. And I'm just what? Like we know that they're going to get together. Why are we prolonging this?
Why are we prolonging it? Give it to me already.
The people
So,
know what we came for. Like, come
yeah.
on. Oh gosh, that's so funny. Well, I hope everybody also checks out Bree's podcast, Categorically Romance, because not only do you talk about the books, but you also talk to a lot of category authors, which you know,
Yes.
again, a great way to, if you're thinking, ooh, maybe this is something I should check out and I'm not sure where to start, Bree and Aaron of the Categorically Romance podcast. They've got you covered.
I have started having some, like I did an interview last weekend with author Virginia Cantra for a single title that she has coming out called The Fairy Tale Life of Dorothy Gale, which is a
Oh my God.
reimagined Wizard of Oz story with Berkeley. And lo and behold, I was doing some research on her before and I was like, she used to write category. She wrote for what is now the romantic suspense line, but back in the day it was called Silhouette Intimate Moments. And so a lot of our favorite like OG authors, you think Nora Roberts, you think Joel Shalvis,
Mm-hmm,
they
mm-hmm.
started writing categories. I was just like, oh my gosh, I love this. So yes,
Yeah.
some of your favorite authors probably got their start there, or at least read it when they were younger, you know? So
Yes.
it's always fun to see.
Yes. Actually, it's always funny when I love to find books at library sales, which, by the way, if people are not doing Hidden Gem, there's a website called like Book Sale Finder, and it finds library sales near you. You can narrow it down by state. It will tell you like when it's happening, where it's happening, how many things that they have there. And so highly recommend. But I have found my fair share of category romance there over the years. At a bargain price, obviously, but also the amount that I've found where I see the author's name on the cover and I'm like, wait a second, I know that author. Like, why have I
Yeah.
never heard of this book? Like, and so it's kind of exciting to find something that maybe you didn't know that one of the authors you love was publishing too. And I don't know. I get a thrill out of that, but I'm a nerd. So, you know, that
Same.
happens.
Yeah. Same.
Well, it should come as no surprise to anybody that, of course, for this podcast with Bree, I had to pick a category romance title. And there were
Yay.
plenty to choose from this holiday season, but I went with Secret Heir for Christmas by LaQuette, and it was published in October of this year, 2023. It's available for $4.99 Kindle edition, and this is also the fourth book in LaQuette's Devereaux Inc. series, which I admit, I think I've read one of the other books in the series, but not the other two. So I've probably missed out on some key information because when we
Mhm.
start this book, we already have like our main character, Stephen, like
Yeah.
talking about how he's, you know, got this big secret. And I was like, uh-oh, I think I might have missed something. But that's okay. Have you read the rest of the series?
I have read, I think there's one I haven't read. I think
Okay.
I've for sure read the first one, the second one. I think the third one I still needed to read. But yeah, it's a Harlequin Desire for anyone who doesn't know. When we are getting this new line Afterglow in the new year. Desire will actually be going away, which is really sad.
No.
Desire has been around since like the 1980s. So It's a little heartbreaking in the category world. I've chatted with some friends who are like really disappointed and sad that it is
Oh,
going away. It was actually Silhouette Desire at first. But yeah, we're some of our authors that are there are going to be moving over to the new line, so that's
sure.
exciting, and finding other homes in the different lines. But I was really happy that you chose this one because I was like, okay, Desire is going away, so
Oh,
hopefully it will inspire people to like go check out the line. This series, Laquette, I never watched it because I was born in the 80s, but there was that Dynasty show.
oh my God,
It,
which
like there was like big
I did not watch either, but I have seen clips of enough to know
clips
about
and
it.
gifs. Yeah. So
Yes.
I guess in that show, oh my God, I'm blanking on the Diane Carroll, the beautiful Black actress in that show.
Oh
She
yeah.
plays a character named Dominique Devereaux. And so Laquette kind of took inspiration from her and created this family. So any Dynasty fans, that is where the Devereaux kind of stem from.
Okay, now that you've said that though, that makes so much sense because I will say, the first thing I told Bree when we hopped on the call was I was really surprised by how there's so much like tragedy in this book. Like, and
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed it and I loved the characters and it was also spicy. But
Yes, very.
now this makes sense though because I am thinking like, oh, this is giving soap opera vibes. Like this is
Yes.
giving, we have this empire of a family, but then also there's secrets and lies and intrigue and this person died and this, and
Yeah.
so it does give major soap opera vibes.
Yes, which for, again, new to category, Desire is kind of American soap opera. So if you're into that, if you grew up watching like me with your grandparents, Young and the Restless, you'll enjoy this. And I think as the series kind of goes out, the books have become a little bit more fun. Like, I don't want to say fun and it sound like they weren't fun to begin with, but I feel like
Right.
it's become kind of a free for all as the line goes out, which is
I like
I'm like, oh
that.
my gosh, I love it. But yeah, so if you are like into that soap opera type drama, like that extraness that comes with being on a soap opera, Desire is the perfect line for you. It's American wealth, it's rich, fun, glitz and glam, and drama. It's very dramatic heavy.
I'm just going to put this out there. And I know that I'm probably getting ahead of myself because, as you said, they're discontinuing this line at Harlequin. They're starting a brand new line. But for all of the category publishers out there, obviously listening to this podcast episode, I'm thinking there needs to be an imprint called Extra. And it's
Yes.
exactly what it sounds like. It is, you could have monster romance. You could imagine
Yeah.
category monster romance. Like imagine it could be the most outlandish, scandalous, soap operatic romances you've ever done. And honestly, people would love it and they would know exactly what they're in for if you label the imprint Extra.
Extra, right?
We're gonna make this happen. Like you know people, I know people. We gonna make this happen. Like,
I think the last time that Aaron and I had the opportunity to chat with editor John Jacobson, who is editing for Afterglow and edited for Harlequin Desire, we were like, can we just get like a couple mini series with monsters? Like, can we let our Harlequin authors just write some monsters? And they were into it,
oh,
but they were
good.
also like, I don't see Harlequin budging on the monsters yet.
Hey,
So
you know what?
we'll
If
keep
the
our fingers crossed.
trends keep going where they're going, obviously they've noticed that people love illustrated covers enough to,
Yeah.
Want to add that to, at least one of their imprints. So I mean, if you recognize like what the people are asking for and what the people want, it's only a matter of time before the monsters come out.
Before they come, yeah. And the thing I think with Harlequin that I've learned is they've done things in the past where I think the timing was off because this isn't their first time putting out illustrated cover books. Like, and a lot of these new books that are coming are like rom-coms.
Right.
And so they've had like duets before, and duets was illustrated covers, very like chicklit looking. you know, Jill Shalvis wrote for them, for example, back in the day. Before that, they had one called Flipside. So they've done it before, but it's almost like, did you do it too early? Did you do it too late? So I'm
Yeah.
interested to see like how this new one goes. Like what are you coming into? Because what does romance look like right now as you're starting to put these books out? So it's going to be interesting to see,
And I
I think.
agree, because I think a lot of times we'll reference like certain authors who we think of as being like ahead of their time. Like I always think back to Jennifer Cruzy, who is like a
Mhm.
major early romance for like a lot of readers. Like I think a lot of people will talk about Jennifer Cruzy as like one of the pinnacles of like their romance reading journey. I know she was very early on into mine. And you know, at the time, and this would have been books that were published in late 90s, early 2000s, she was writing plus size heroines. She was writing heroines
Yeah.
over the age of 40. And heroes too. She was writing them having bad sex and not being able to like orgasm. Like she was writing all sorts of things that I don't think people maybe knew or were willing to like talk about at the time. But now
Yes.
you reference Jennifer Cruzy somewhere and people are like, oh my God, I love how
Oh, gee.
progressive a lot of her books are. And so there
Yeah.
really is this element of timing, and it's not the most predictable thing either. Like you never really know what's going to take off the next year until it happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I had never read, and again, guys, I did not come to romance until like 2017, so I'm a little late, but I had never read an abortion, a heroine having
Ooh,
had an abortion
yeah.
in a romance. So I thought that was off limits. I thought it was just
Mm-hmm.
something that in general the genre was like, we're not touching. And then I discovered Harlequin Kiss, which was a line that did not last long. I don't know why. But I do think it was a line ahead of its time. I think if it
Mm,
came out now, people would eat it up.
yeah.
But I the first one that I read came out in like 2014, and the heroine was like, "Yeah, I had an abortion. I wouldn't take it back. Like I was $20,000 in debt, and I like $70,000 in debt, and I only made $20,000 a year. So I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to bring a kid into the world. Like very unapologetic about
That
it.
could
Like
be
I think about
published
the baby, but I
today
did what I had
and
to
that
do.
would still
Y-
make perfect sense. And that
yes,
same money as well. Like I'm like, yeah,
yes.
that factors.
And I'm like, this is a 2014 Harlequin Kiss. I was
Yep.
like, people did talk about it, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's true. And people just don't know necessarily where to turn to, especially when it's far and few between, which is why you know, it's something that I always advocate for on this podcast is I want to see stuff like that normalized. I want to see us having conversations about it and characters in books also having
Yeah.
conversations about it, because the more we're putting it out there, the more, no, I shouldn't say more, the less taboo and stigmatized it becomes. Like the more that you
It
can talk
becomes.
about something, the less stigma there will be surrounding it, because it will
Exactly.
just become a more I don't want to say normalized or like natural or regular, but it will just become a part of the world in the way that it already is. We just don't talk about it. So yeah,
Right.
I love it. I love all that. So I'm very excited to see where you know, Harlequin goes with the new imprint. It sounds like people might need to stock up on this imprint before it's gone, and maybe you'll have yourself some collector's items there.
I totally agree. And the desires that are coming out now, like if you get LaQuette's book, it's a 2-in-1. So you'll
Yes.
get it with somebody else's book. And I'm like, I need all of these before the line is over.
Stock up on those desires, baby. Well, let me give everyone the synopsis for Secret Heir for Christmas, and then we will get started talking about the book. So here we go. Even, I'm just looking at the synopsis, and even this is very dramatic.
Dramatic.
Fame cost him his first love. An unassuming man next door may be his second chance at happiness until his wealthy family puts them back in the spotlight. LaQuette stuns in this holiday romance, the latest in her Devereaux Inc. series. Okay, now we've got a little bit of a repeat going into the actual synopsis. Fame cost him his first love. This holiday, will the man next door tempt him with a second chance? Actor Carter Jiménez lived a glamorous life until he lost his wife to the dark side of fame. Now he'll protect his young daughter by avoiding celebrity at all costs. Then his seemingly understated neighbor, did you say Stephen or Stephan or Stefan?
Oh gosh, I think I said Steven.
I did too.
But I think that's wrong.
It's that Stephen like Phan.
Yeah.
So I'm like, is it Stephan? Because that does sound more like a rich name, I will say.
Yeah.
Okay. Stephan Devereaux-Smith tempts his still wounded heart. Is this Carter's second chance at love? But Stephan isn't an average man caring for a sick relative. He's part of a billionaire family and the ritzy world Carter left behind. Torn between new love and old demons. I like that. Can Carter trust Stephan with his family and his heart? Ooh. I don't know about you, but I feel like I've read my fair share of billionaire romance. I've read my fair share of celebrity romance. I don't usually get to see the two together unless the billionaire is also the celebrity. And yes, Stephan is part of this empire of a family, the Devereaux. But I did think it was really interesting that like both of them have had this life of glamour, in the public eye. And I thought that was different because usually it does feel like one of them is kind of hesitant about their celebrity status and like how they're being taken advantage of. And in this case, it was both of them had that celebrity status.
Yeah, I thought that it just kind of, I don't know, like hyped up the stakes a little bit more.
Yeah. And then you throw in a kid and
you throw in the single dad element too. Yeah.
Yeah. And a dying uncle, which,
and the dying uncle.
I have to say, look, it doesn't say dying in the synopsis. It says taking care of a sick relative. I was not expecting to start this book with Stephan visiting his uncle, who is like the patriarch of this empire. And his uncle is dying and is saying, yes, my last dying wish is for you to experience life more and throw us a Christmas party. And like Stephan, I was like, what? What did I sign up to read? This is supposed to be a holiday romance full of joy and cheer. And, yes, you do get some of that, but damn, there is definitely a darker side. I should have known because the subtitle to the book title is an emotional male holiday romance. But silly me, I thought like one of them having a deceased spouse was
emotional.
The emotional part. But
I was like, I don't even know what I was thinking. I guess I've kind of grown into that reader that doesn't read the back of books anymore. I'm just like, okay,
I don't as much cool. Either. Yeah.
See the cover. Yeah. We're podcasters. We don't, whatever extra time we can give ourselves. Right. We're not reading the back of the book. So like I saw the cover and I was like, oh, it's Christmassy. Two gorgeous men on the front cover. All I need to know. And then I got into the book and I remember when I chatted with Desire author Reese Ryan. Her and a couple of other authors had a continuity together. And I think I asked something like getting everybody back home or something like that. And she's like, make somebody dying.
Oh my God.
Actually, it might have been LaQuette. I can't remember. It was a Desire author. And they were like, somebody needs to be dying.
Well, and you know what's...
I was like, okay, this makes sense of like why everybody would be flocking back home. Everybody's back in that space, but it does make it sad.
That's well, and it's multi-layered to it for why it's sad to me, because one, when you think about the holiday season, I think generally speaking, people associate like love and joy and like all these things with it. So there's that. So already you've got, some sadness there, but then two is, it's not somebody who has already died. It's somebody who is literally in the process of dying and everybody knows it. Because I feel like when I do read death in romance novels, a lot of the time, most of the time, it's somebody who's been gone for a long time. We've got a widower character. We've got somebody moving on. dealing with their grief and falling in love again. Sometimes we've got, maybe an elder character who doesn't even tell people that they're dying, and then surprise, they died later into the story. But this was everybody from jump is very aware that Uncle Ace, bless his heart, is dying.
He's on his way out.
He knows it. Everybody knows it. Nobody's trying to sugarcoat it. It's not there's going to be a miraculous recovery in the end. It's no, he's dying. We're going to try to keep him alive long enough to have a Christmas party to remember with him. And that's just so heart-wrenching.
I think the heart-wrenching part for me was Uncle Ace talking to Stephan and just basically being like, I want to see you happy. I want to see you living life. And the caveat is, I want you to throw this party.
Right. And Stephan's like, I'm sorry. And he explains it very clearly when, he first starts chatting and trying to hook up with Carter, which I love. I also love how blatant these men are when they're talking about how much they want each other. But he's like, I don't know, what the hell am I supposed to do? This man is dying and he wants me to throw him a fucking party. What am I supposed to do with that? And I think that's a very natural reaction. It doesn't matter if you're a billionaire tycoon family. That would be the reaction I think anybody would have.
Yeah, I think that what I think Laquette did so fabulously is I think she captured how when somebody's dying, the very much healthy, alive people, we can be so selfish and we make it so much about ourselves. But Uncle Ace is I want a party. Let's celebrate. I've lived my life. In the words of my sister, he's ready to get out of here. You know, and he wants to go out having a party where it's the people that are gonna have to live without him. We're just so sad and we can't imagine our lives without him. But it's so I think she captured that push and pull and the opposite sides of the spectrum so well. Uncle Ace is just I'm chilling. Let's have a party. Let's celebrate Christmas together one more time as a family. And everybody else is oh my God, it's Uncle Ace. We're gonna lose him. So.
And honestly, I feel like this is a book that a lot of people can connect to on some level with that, because I know that when we've lost people in our family, a lot of the time they've been very clear where they're I don't want you to throw me some sad ass funeral. And that's no shade to anybody who has had who has commemorated their loss with something like a traditional funeral.
That's tradition, right? That's tradition here.
A lot of things that I've gone to have been what people refer to as celebrations of life. And it's more
celebrations of life.
People getting together and just sharing stories about the person. And, it can happen outside. It can happen at somebody's house, whatever it might be. But everybody deals with grief and death differently. And I think there is something beautiful to thinking of it as, instead of having this somber tone of, missing me and mourning me, why wouldn't we celebrate everything I've accomplished? Why wouldn't we celebrate all of the things that this family has done and I've been a part of? That's incredible. That's worth celebrating, not mourning, because especially when it's all part of life, that it's, it's so, again, it's very somber to think about, without context, but just that, this is all a part of life, and that includes death. And I think when you get older, you also kind of recognize that it's more of realizing that you're not you're not in fame. You're not going to live forever.
Yeah. I can't remember what I was watching, one of my nerdy History Channel shows or something, and it was just death is every day that you are alive, you have to death gave you another day.
Yeah.
So I think that's a way to look. But I think especially with this being a Christmas book, I think Uncle Ace was giving them something more positive to focus on, rather than every year that he's gone now, the holidays being a sad time, they could be
Mhm.
like, well, before our last hoorah with him, we had a party, you know?
Yeah.
So I think he was trying to change the narrative for them.
And that is nice because I don't think a lot of people have like that special memory when it comes to like loss. Like the last
Yeah.
few years during the holidays have been really interesting for our family. And that's because last Christmas was our last Christmas with my grandma Reynolds. And I mean, she was an old bird. She was in her mid 90s. But it was kind
Oh.
of one of those things where like we knew this is it. Like, this is last Christmas with grandma. And then the year before had been the first Christmas without my papa on the other side of the family. That's also a different experience, is like the first Christmas without somebody versus the
Yeah.
last Christmas with them. But I think you're right that the way that Ace goes about it is, well, if it's going to be our last Christmas together and like thinking ahead for like the Christmases to come, they'll have this memory of this party
Yeah.
and everybody being together and surrounded by fun and love and music and food. This will be the memory that they think of
Yeah.
as last Christmas with Uncle Ace. And that
Yeah.
is something that, I mean, that's something I wish I had, like, from
Yeah.
losing my grandparents.
Yeah, we oh my gosh, I'm a terrible granddaughter. Sorry guys. But last year my dad's mom, my nana passed away. I think either Thanksgiving or the day after. And this year was really hard for him. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, and it was so all of a sudden, like she was having such a wonderful day. And then she literally, my aunt was taking her, I think, to maybe go see my nana's sister or something like that, and she like walked out of her apartment and had a stroke
Oh
and never
no.
came out of it. And it's just like if we would have known,
Right.
we
And you
would have been
never
able to do
can.
things totally different, but you don't know. So it's like beautiful to see Uncle Ace. Like, the one thing I can control is I
Mm-hmm.
do feel like I have a little bit of time,
Mm-hmm.
and I just want it to be a fun time.
I mean, and if nothing else, it's all the more reason to make the most of the time that you have, because
Exactly.
I think every once in a while it's kind of nice to have that reminder of like, you never know. You never know what's going to
Yeah.
happen tomorrow. You never know. And so because of that, why are you putting off the things that you could do now? Why are you putting off the dreams that you have, or the books you want to read, or the places you want to travel to? I know the answer a lot of the time is money. Like, and I do get that. At
Yeah.
the same time, I think it's so important that people are pursuing the things that make them happy and feel fulfilled, because again, you never know. I apologize if this podcast episode has been somewhat of a downer, but I do think that, especially, regardless of when you've lost loved ones, like I do feel like it's kind of weird that it happens near the holidays for a lot of people I know,
Yeah.
but regardless of when you have lost loved ones, and I would venture that almost everybody has lost at least one loved one in their life, that you do tend to think about them around the holiday season, because it is a time that we associate with being surrounded by the people you love, whether that's friends, family, neighbors, partners, children, whoever it might be. So, all that to say that if you're listening to this and you're shedding a tear, or you're thinking about, that person that you're missing, that just try to also think about the wonderful times that you've had with them. And,
Yeah.
I think those are the memories to cling to.
Yeah, do you think it's like something about the holiday? I know, like, I mean, technically, right, we're still in the fall. It's always so weird. It's either like fall and holiday season. I think it's just such a time for reflection anyway.
Yes.
So I kind of feel like, I don't know, this book in a weird way just makes you reflect
Mm-hmm.
on
Mm-hmm.
everything that we just talked about.
I agree.
I think especially with Uncle Ace wanting to see Stephan, who's always been very business and family first, for this elder to say, like, I want you to make sure that you're good and like make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you're happy. And for him to have to reflect on, like, have I been taking care of myself? You know? So
Right.
I don't know.
And
Do you think that that's something that just kind of goes with the holiday season?
yes, no, and I agree. Like, and that's something we've actually been talking about. It's so funny that this is the final day of Boobsmas, but we've been talking about this throughout the 12 days of Boobsmas, where there's been a moment almost every episode where we've said, oh, that would be a great thing for us to think about in 2024. Oh, that would be a great thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time it's been stuff like, I want to, focus on my well-being. I want to check in with myself. I want to make sure I'm refilling the creative well, So it's just a gentle reminder that you can't really take care of anybody else until you're taking care of yourself. And I think part of that includes thinking about the less happy things as well. And because I love being the voice of positivity, but that it's like when you read a grumpy sunshine romance and the sunshine character is suppressing a lot of the things inside and projecting this image of sunshine, that stuff will eat at you. And so I think it's important that you also reflect about, the great things, but also the not so great things in this past year and beyond, to be the better, brighter you that you can be. Oh my God, we sound like a self-help podcast. Like I
know. We're the wellness girlies here.
I'm gonna try to dig us out of this lovely circle of
the
emotions.
Romance is wonderful. Okay, the romance is wonderful.
Let me share with you a few of my favorite parts of this book. So starting with, I will say I love that we have a Black MC and we have a Puerto Rican MC, which I thought was a great combination. I also loved that they were both like New Yorkers through and through. Like they talked about how, I think Stephan was from Brooklyn. And granted, I don't know a ton about New York villages.
Same. Yeah.
Boroughs?
I don't even know.
Boroughs. That's the word. They use boroughs.
Is that what it is? Okay.
But I think they were both from Brooklyn, and I thought that was cool. I also have one specific line that I thought was hilarious that I will mention in a moment, but let me tell you, LaQuette knows how to describe clothing like nobody's business.
Yeah.
Like the way that this
does.
woman described their outfits was outrageous. Like, I mean, it would be paragraphs dedicated to what these men were wearing. Like, here's just one example. This is just one, and this is earlier into the book. Stephan had traded his Armani slushy-stained suit for a red Billionaire Boys Club helmet varsity jacket, paired with a black Henley and black straight-cut jeans. Carter let his eyes drift to the floor to get a glimpse of the wheat nubuck, I don't even know what that means, Jimmy Choo X Timberland boots. See, I don't even know what some of these words are.
Sounds sexy to me. Have no idea.
That brought the entire outfit together. And I'm just like, oh my God, like the image you have painted of these men and their immaculate designer clothing is just, love it. This was probably, I just thought this was so funny. And this is so early into the book when we first meet Carter and his daughter, because her dog runs inside the house, runs inside Stephan's house, I should say, not their house. And he picks up the dog to bring it back outside, and the dog is named Ebony. And he says, all right, Miss Ebony, you should know, Black folks don't believe in kissing their dogs in the mouth.
Yeah. She's like kissing him all over the face. Oh, it was such a sweet visual.
I thought that was so funny. I loved that. I love so many moments, and I know we focus so much on the grief element and, the fact that Carter is also a widower. I mean, there's more grief, and Carter has also lost his brother. So just another heaping of grief, if you will. There's also so many small moments of joy and also a little bit of sexiness too.
Yeah, there was some hot sexiness. I was like, I don't know what I was expecting, I guess, because I didn't read the back of the book. I don't know. I was like, oh, and again, okay. But I think my favorite parts are just, especially when they initially meet And like she describes like, I don't know, maybe when Stephan hands Carter the dog back and their hands
Mhm.
brush against each other, like
Yes.
those moments where where you infer like, oh
Mhm.
shit, this is a game-changing moment.
And
Like
it's like
I haven't felt
immediate
this in a while.
attraction.
Yes.
Like because they
Yes.
even, Carter offers for Stephan to come to
His bar, and
his
he'll
bar,
replace his
and he's like, I'll
food.
replace his food. And like literally this man sits down and they're making eyes at each other. And Stephan is like, are you picking up like what I'm putting down? And Carter's like, yes,
Yes.
but, and yes, I do want to
We're
fuck you
not going
too.
there right
However,
now.
we're not going to. And you're
Yeah.
just like, oh my God. So we're starting this friendship of sorts, this bromance with them knowing that they want to fuck each other, but they're not going to.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
that the minute that that's established, that this is all going to build up to something, and it does. And we get a few scenes, like we get some sexy jacuzzi action. They do use lube, which I appreciate. I will never read a romance that has butt stuff that does not have lube in it. Like that's a DNF for me for sure.
Yeah.
If
I
I
love
read
that
that.
Carter at one point was like, I kind of got myself ready before you got here. I was
That
like,
was
oh,
great. That was so
I had to
good.
put the book down for just a minute and take a walk. I was like, okay, Carter.
Yeah, you did. Did you have a particular sexy excerpt or sexcerpt, if you will, that you wanted to
Oh my
share?
gosh. Oh my gosh. I wish I would have highlighted it. I think the part, like I just said, was when like the visual of it and Stefan's like, well, where is the toy that you use? And like
Yeah, tell
Carter's
me
like
more.
describing it to him. I was like, I am into this moment.
Yeah,
Like I was so deep into it.
that was
No puns intended,
yeah.
but it was it was it was delicious.
No, pun
Yes.
intended, all the way, all the
Yes.
way.
All the way.
I will say, I also, it's so funny. Every time I think about my id list, I always think of Nana Malone, because she's the one who taught me like what's your id list, like what that means and everything. And I always think of things that, I know are things that I'm trash for, but then I'll read something and be like, oh my God, I forgot that I'm trash for
Yeah.
that too. And the one that I've added now to my id list is like pushing somebody up against a door. Like I forgot how much I loved that. And so there's a scene where it's after they've had sex. It's like the next day, Stephan comes to Carter's bar again, and like the minute they close the door to Carter's office, Stephan like has that man up against the door and is just
Like I have to have you right now. Like I just need
going
to touch you.
to
I just
town.
need
Yeah.
Yes.
It was good. And I wanted to give you like a brief excerpt of that. Although I'm trying to figure out like where to start, because it's such a good scene. I think I like this part because there's also talk of him like gripping his arms and like making him like put them above his head. And like, I love that too. Like that's also very big. That's in both of my books. There's a reason for it. So I will start with, Stephan pushed Carter's hands above his head, gripping his wrists in one hand and using his free hand to undo Carter's belt and zipper and pull his cock free, stroking him from root to tip. Stephan, please. All you have to do is give me what I want and I'll make it so good for you. Don't you want that? Oh my God.
I'm giving you an option here. You can say no.
It's so good. It's so
It's so good.
good. Yeah, no, and
Yeah.
it's so funny because I know that such a large portion of this podcast episode has been about the grief element that is in this story, but I do think we all need that emotional release sometimes. And I think this would be a great book for that, for a lot of people to read. Like, and I can't say as much about the other books in the series because I think I've only read one of them, but I would assume that, if this one is labeled as an emotional romance, that probably the rest of the series would follow suit.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. Well, any last thoughts about this book before we move on to our final segment?
I think that everyone should read it. I think if you enjoy holiday romance, you're going to enjoy the book. Like, yes, it has the grieving characters in there. I personally enjoy grief because I think that we're all going to experience it at some point.
I agree.
And I think that having it during the holidays is just a reminder that like the holidays is not, as I am a Hallmark fan, but like it's not all Hallmark
It's not
glitz and glam all
perfect.
the
It's
time.
not neat
You
and
know,
tidy.
it's not. That's why we need more like romantic suspense set during the holidays, because bad things happen during the
Ooh.
holidays, that we need more. But I think it's beautiful when you have two kind of heartbroken people finding each other during such a wonderful time. So loved it.
Yeah.
Yes, pick it up.
Nice. Okay, well, we won't be playing a game for this particular episode of Boobsmas. However, I thought because we have the category queen here, and because we are talking about category Christmas romance, that Bree might provide a few more holiday recommendations, specifically category holiday recommendations, because that's something that I'm more of a newbie to. I'm much less versed in category romance. So we're going to the source herself, and Bree, tell us about a few of your category holiday recommendations.
Okay. So one that is out now, it came out, I think, in November. Yes. It is called Christmas in River's Edge. It is by Nan Reinhardt. It is book 3 in a series, but it is fine. All of these can be read as standalones. It is book 3 in her Weaver Sisters series. It follows a set of triplets. Nan Reinhardt is she's hilarious. Her dialogue is fantastic. If you love small town, this is a small town set in Indiana. And it's so hard to explain, but it is with Thule. It's kind of a spin-off series. Like how like back in the day, like, Jill Shalvis would do like Lucky Harbor, and then that was it. What Nan does is like she has created this town, and like 3 books will be set in it following this family, and then the next series comes and it's
Okay.
still in the same town, but it's following a different family. So that's what this is. I love her, you guys. I feel like I am part of this town at this point. Like I am obsessed with it. So go check out anything Nan writes, but Christmas in River's Edge, if you're looking for something to add to your holiday TPR, add that. From Harlequin Romance, if you're overseas, it's Mills and Boone True Love. My Unexpected Christmas Wedding by Rachel Stewart. Rachel is one of my favorite category authors. She used to write for Dare. So she writes everything from like the very sexy to, I mean, she could do sweet if she wanted. She
Love
could be
that.
really, really funny, but she just writes like, I don't know, really girly, sparkly, fun books. I love her. And then if you are looking for a series to dive into, the medical series, or Harlequin Medical, had a continuity come out called Boston Christmas Miracles. It was written by Anne McIntosh, Juliet Hyland, Tracy Douglas, and Deanne Anders.
Oh, I've read
And
Tracy before. And in fact, I think
she's so good.
Tracy and I were on a panel discussion together. So I have read Tracy before.
She's so good. Yeah. So the continuities is when they have a series, but it's a group of different authors. So every author writes a different book. This one is set in a hospital in Boston, and I love all of these authors. So highly recommend that. Again, don't be intimidated by medical. I think if you enjoy small town romance, you will enjoy medical more than you may think. Because I was definitely apprehensive, but once I really got into it, I was like, oh, I came into romance reading small town. And it's essentially the same thing, you guys. So give it a try.
You know what? Now that you've said that, I'm I had never thought of medical romance that way before, but it's true. If you think about even something like Grey's Anatomy, if you think about something like that, it all, for the most part, takes place at the hospital. And there are still different parts of the hospital. And so I am seeing this parallel to small town. That makes perfect sense. And I'm not sure why I haven't put those pieces together before, but at the same time,
I didn't. Yeah.
I also haven't read that much medical romance. So I feel like, and this is the one that you're saying you love reading that medical romance.
The romance line is my favorite, but the medical I would have to say is becoming my second favorite.
I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah. Yeah. If you are a small town lover, and they can have some steam. It depends on authors. Some keep it sweet. But I think with Afterglow coming, a lot of the lines are opening up to like inviting more sexy times on the page, which is fantastic. It's like, thank goodness. But yeah, I mean, and the hospital world is so big. You have vets, you have heart doctors, you have surgeons, you have nurses, all the gamut. So, and it's not heavy on the medical stuff. That just happens to be their profession. So
Yeah.
it's also workplace romance if you enjoy
Mhm.
that.
That's like how I think of a lot of the sports romance I read. I'm like, well, there's sports there. Like they
Yeah.
play sports. Like, is it really about the sports? No. And honestly, there have been hockey romances I've read where I've told people, this is really great if you're an actual hockey fan, because they really go into detail about the hockey. Is that what I'm looking for when I pick up a hockey romance? Absolutely not. I don't care if we don't see a moment of these people on the ice. You could just tell me that they're a hockey player. That's enough for me. Like,
I'll visualize the rest. I'll visualize the rest. Yeah.
Genuinely don't care. And that, no shade to anybody who reads or writes hockey romance. I just don't care. Like, I will read it.
Yeah.
I don't know a lick about hockey. So that's why that one's, whatever. But okay, well, those all sound like great picks. I'm super excited. And, again, a reminder to everybody that your holiday romance reading doesn't have to stop come December 26th. I actually was pleasantly surprised to see a ton of people still posting about and recommending holiday romance this past year, well until the end of January. And I think that's totally fine, especially because January is kind of that weird month where you're in between a lot of things. You're in the aftermath of like the holiday season, but it's pre-Valentine's Day. It's also usually freezing. I don't know. I feel like January is that month to cling to whatever joy you can get, because it's
absolutely
literally miserable in a lot of parts of the world in January.
Yeah.
So if that means reading more holiday romance well into January, Bree has just given you a few more recommendations. You can always pick up my books. You can pick up any of the books from the 12 Days of Boobsmas. We also have 5 years of 12 Days of Boobsmas episodes that you can go back to listen to and find even more holiday romance recommendations. So if you want to read holiday romance all year long, all the power to you.
And hopefully we'll get somebody put some New Year's romance out there. Okay, let's stop sleeping on New Year's. Okay,
I know, there really isn't
New
enough
Year's
of
kiss.
it. Like, it's kind of sad.
Yeah, give me a sexy New Year's kiss that leads to something else. I don't care. I'm becoming like a holiday gal the older I get, and I'm like, okay, where is this?
That for you.
Give me more of this. Yeah.
Well, Bree, happy holidays to you and your family. I hope you guys have a wonderful, season. And I know you're in Texas, but I'm sure it still gets cold there. So stay warm.
Thank you. Yeah, you too. Send me pictures of the craft fair.
Oh, I will. You better believe I'm going to buy some crap at the craft. So get ready. Get ready to see some pictures. But yeah, thank you again for joining me. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. And thanks to everybody for tuning in to the 12 Days of Boobsmas. I've got one final treat for everybody, and that is the complete 12 Days of Boobsmas jingle as composed by the fabulous Cooper Baldwin. So stay tuned, because that's coming up next. And trust me, you want to hear this song in its entirety. And that means there's nothing left for Bree and I to say except, on the 12th day of Boobsmas, my lover gave to me 12 crotchless panties. Merry Boobsmas, everybody. We'll see you in 2024.
On the 12th day of Boobsmas, my lover gave to me 12 crotchless panties, 11 bodice rippers, 10 tubes of lube, 9 naughty spankings, 8 rock hard up, 7 minutes in heaven, 6 billionaires, 5 penis, 5 penis, 4 dukes of fucking, 3 butt plugs, 2 nipple clips, and a hot hookup underneath the tree, and a hot hookup underneath the tree. everybody. Ho, ho, ho.